Next movie we're talking about is a horror movie. Another sequel.
Ooh.
Dr. Sleep.
Ooh.
Wow. Dr. Sleep has been highly anticipated.
Yeah.
It is both an adaptation to the novel as well as a sequel, legitimate sequel to the Shining movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We saw it a little bit early. It's not officially released as of the release of this podcast. It's not officially come out. That's later this week.
Yeah, it will come out this Friday/Thursday.
Yep. Definitely go see that. It's directed and written by Mike Flanagan, who has a long track record in the horror genre.
Wait, just real quick. So we was talking about James Wan the other day.
Yeah.
Mike Flanagan is right behind him.
He's right there. He's
he
absolutely
is
right
like
there.
knocking on James Wan's door.
He's
I'm
cold.
right next to you, bro.
Yeah.
Oh man,
He's really good.
What a beast! A lot of people don't know Mike Flanagan did the good Ouija. So there was Ouija 1, which is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And then he came out with Ouija Origin of Evil, which is just such a good movie. Yeah. He also did what else did Mike Flanagan do?
He has quite a lot. He's actually
did Oculus.
Oh yeah, he did do Oculus.
If you haven't seen Oculus, just go. If you like anything that's weird or a horror film-ish, just watch Oculus, man.
He did Hush.
Gerald's Game, another Stephen King adaptation.
Gerald's Game is actually, I think it's a really, really good movie.
People love
Netflix.
Hush too.
And
People love Hush.
Gerald's Game is on Netflix if you want to check that out. So he's familiar with Stephen King, obviously. So I think he was, clearly a really good candidate to direct this movie. So again, like I mentioned, Dr. Sleep is not only an adaptation of the novel, which is a sequel to the novel The Shining, but it's also more so a faithful sequel to the Shining film, which was directed by Stanley Kubrick and released in 1980, if I'm not mistaken. One of the greatest horror movies ever made. So Dr. Sleep is starring Ewan McGregor. He's also supported by Rebecca Ferguson and Cliff Curtis. What is the young girl's name in the movie?
Her name is Kylie Kern.
Kylie, okay, so we'll definitely talk about her. So we saw this movie, Dr. Sleep. I had not read the book, so I didn't know what to expect. This was brand new to me, right? Mm-hmm. We saw the movie. It is quite long. I will say it's 152 minutes. So if you go see the movie,
it is long.
Strap in and get comfortable because there's a lot to get through. So Dr. Sleep is out. What are the thoughts on this film? Did it work as a follow-up to The Shining? Mm-hmm. Is it scary? How are the actors, the story, all of that good stuff?
I have a lot of different thoughts. I love this movie because it's not scary in terms of jump scares, right? It's scary to me in the sense of situation. It's scary to me in terms of what is there to lose. Mm-hmm. And I love that.
Yeah.
That's what makes this a horror. Like, a lot of people put horror films in this jump category all the time, and it's wrong.
Horror can be so many things.
And I think this movie did it very, very well. I knew it was never going to be The Shining.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But honestly, I did hope for a little bit more. Again, I didn't read the book, so I did hope for a little bit more of a Shining feel to it at first. I guess I'm a little conflicted, right? I'm a little hypocritical about this because, again, although I loved how different it was, like again, one of my favorite things about this movie is it's like in my mind it just happens to be in the Shining universe.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's like completely different.
Yeah.
But another part of me wished there was a little more Stanley Kubrick in the way that Mike Flanagan approached this, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Be your own director, but I just wish there was a little more Stanley Kubrick flavor in there.
Yeah. I'm of a similar mindset because I would say I'm also conflicted about it in a couple of respects. I will say I really like the movie. I think it's a really good movie.
It's tight.
I think it's a really good movie. I think it's different than any other horror movie that we have out now. Mm-hmm. I agree with your points about what it considers to be horror and how it decides to approach that, right? What I'm conflicted about is similar to what you mentioned, just in terms of it does enough to create its own identity. It does enough to be its own film and to not completely rely on what The Shining did for it.
Yeah.
However, there's also a certain portion of the film which leans completely into The Shining.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's this weird back and forth of like, you're your own movie. However, like, you also still have a lot of The Shining a part of you. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, like, I don't know if I'm upset about that, because if it didn't have any of The Shining in it, I would have been pissed.
Yeah, it's like I still needed that part of the movie.
Like, I would have been pissed if there was like really no connective tissue besides like Danny Torrance being like the focal point. If there was no other connective tissue, I would have walked out pissed. Like, so bro, y'all really didn't want to go to the Overlook? Like, y'all really didn't want to do that? I would have been mad. However, I will say that like it's tough. It's really tough because The Shining is such a well-defined classic film, and this movie, again, it is not only an adaptation of the book, but it is a sequel to the movie as well. It pays homage to both, right? So we can't look at it strictly as an adaptation. So because of that, you do sort of expect to see more of that Shining flavor, more of that Stanley Kubrick flavor, you know, more of like the music and the cinematography choices. And there's a little bit of that in there, but it's not as strong or pervasive as it is in The Shining, right? So the feel of it, the tone of it, it sort of felt a little bit disconnected from that world that was set up. And you know, I don't know if that was an intentional choice or if that's just strictly due to the fact that like 40 years have passed, right?
And,
so it's
and
like,
also that could just be how Stephen King wrote the book.
Yeah,
like
that too.
The book could just be like the movie, you know what I mean?
And I know he really wanted to be faithful to the book too, and also sort of like walk back a couple of things that were done in the original movie. Like he sort of wanted to not fix them, but I think certain people and Stephen King himself were not satisfied with necessarily how the Shining movie played out, because there are some notable differences. So Mike Flanagan, I mean, he had a tough job, right? I mean,
he did.
It's a really tough job to be like, oh, I'm gonna make the sequel to, you know, one of the most well-known movies ever made, and I also want to sort of like tinker around with like some things that were made by, you know, one of the greatest directors. Like he had a lot of things that he was trying to accomplish, right? So it's a tough job to begin with. With all of that said, though, I do think it's a really good movie. I really liked it. I think Ewan McGregor did amazing. I really liked him as Danny Torrance. You saw all of the pain that he carried around, everything he dealt with as a child, that trauma that he carried.
It's Ewan McGregor, man.
It's him, man. I mean, like, come on, he's one of the best actors in the world, right?
Easy.
And like, all of that stuff and the connection with, you know, his father Jack, and just how that played into his, you know, into how his life ended up. Like, I thought that stuff was really powerful. And then we got to talk about Kylie.
We got to talk about Kylie Curran,
who was like the breakout of this movie.
When I say we're about to see so much more of this black girl, I don't even know how old she is. Kylie Curran is maybe 10, 11, 12.
Probably, at most 12, right?
At most 12. Yeah. She's like this 10, 11-year-old girl who steals the entire show of the movie.
100%.
And I just wanted more of her.
Yeah.
Even when she was off screen, I was like, please come back.
Yeah.
Because she is so charismatic. She doesn't even look like she's acting.
Right.
She just is like,
this is like really a lived experience.
This is her comfort zone.
Yeah, this is what she's going through.
This is where she lives, and I'm really excited to see where she goes.
Yeah, she's the young actress in the movie. Essentially now she has like the ability known as The Shining, right? She's sort of like she shines and she can speak to people, you know, through that way and all these different things. And so she is pretty much, you know, standing toe to toe with Ewan McGregor in this film. And by God, I mean she really knocked it out of the park. I loved every scene that she was in.
Every scene.
I bought it. I believed her. I believed her fear. I believed her anxiety that she experienced. I mean, she just conveyed all of that so well. Like, wherever they found her, please, like, put her in more stuff.
Put her in ASAP. Everything,
right?
Because she beasted.
Yeah, she did really well. I also want to say Rebecca Ferguson too. Did a great job.
But
as Rose
again, that's another person that's just like, she know what she's doing.
You just expect that.
You
right?
just expect it nowadays.
Like, she did an incredible job. She's the antagonist, the villain in the movie. She plays Rose the Hat, and I think, like, she was a legitimate force. Like, she was certainly a threat to Danny Torrance and Kylie's character, Abra. Like, she really posed a legitimate threat, and like, you believed it from early on. But you also, like, you understand the motivation behind why she did what she did. Like, you understand like why she, you know, sort of took the approach. I mean, it was all about survival, really, right?
That's that Thanos right there.
Yeah. So
also shout out to Jacob Tremblay.
Yeah,
because he's just been working.
He's been working a lot. Yeah, he's been in.
He's just a young. Yeah, he's just gonna grow up to be one of the greats too. Yeah, we see it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I personally, I recommend Dr. Sleep. But as you mentioned earlier, this is not a movie that has like traditional jump scares that you might expect from a horror film. Like it takes a much different approach, and I think that is large in part because of how Stanley King writes. That's his approach. Like he has a very creative imagination, right? And so the things that he envisions and how filmmakers are able to bring that to the screen, like it conveys it in such a way that you have to really sort of encompass and embody like what these characters are going through, because their horror and their lived experience in and of itself is a lot of what drives like the horror elements of the movie. That's really where the horror comes in, right? Like Danny deals with alcoholism and alcohol abuse. Like that can be horrific for people. Daddy. You know what I'm saying? Just like his daddy. So all of that stuff, I say all that to say, like, I definitely recommend it. It's great. Like, if you got the time to spare, go check it out. And it's a horror movie. Like, we love horror.
I would recommend seeing The Shining first, though.
Yeah.
I feel like this is one of the ones I will say you will appreciate the movie 10 times more if you have seen The Shining.
Yeah.
There's just so many moments in it where you're just like, I'm happy I've seen the movie.
Yeah, you'll kind of be, you could probably get through it without seeing it, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would
still suggest it. Yeah,
I wouldn't recommend not seeing The Shining. Right. I would recommend at least seeing that movie before seeing this for sure. It'll certainly add a lot more context to everything that you see sort of unfold in the film. So those are our thoughts on Dr. Sleep. Check out the movie. It comes out this Friday, November 8th. It's a wide release. If you do see it, hit us up at 2 Black Nerds. Let us know what you think.